here's a deep cut into something. This is a hot take about Neverwinter. In order for people to play a game, they must have adequate gear rewards to encourage them to play. That is a stagnant, old school, preservational perspective on how to condition people to be encouraged for self-improvement. What's a more contemporary way that is flexible, that compromises between Cryptic's need for creativity and inclusiveness and maybe the sustainability of the veteran players and whatnot, and maybe possibly the preservationists? Well, having reward that has no tangible effects on performance and migrating to rewards that are sentimental, right? So that when you have sentimentalism, it's not associated with performance. What does that look like? Well, I think Cryptic has been doing half and half here. Like a title, a fashion item, a signet, or an emblem of legacy, right? But they're not bound by performance differences. When you have gear as a form of completion, those who complete things will continue to complete things. Those who don't will continue to not complete them. And that's kind of still true on all the modules. Neverwinter, in my opinion, is still struggling with balancing, like Cryptic is still struggling with balancing how to convert this into a live service model versus the old school stuff, right? The traditionalism. I don't think, I mean, I love for them to conceptualize something that is completely different from what I envision. That would be amazing, right? Like, it would be awesome if I am totally proven incorrect, and then I can talk about that in the future. But for now, there is not a current live service model that's existing that uses this approach of attaching improvements, attaching completion and improvement to performance gains. It's not sustainable. You'll eliminate every player from then on. So you're either here since the beginning or you're not. So it just caps the community. Occasionally you'll probably find people who don't have FOMO and all that other stuff and legacy and the need for sentimental investment to stay with a game. But generally speaking, you're creating a system that are people who are zeros and ones. They either go cold turkey or they don't. So it's like, hey, I'm never coming back to this game. Once I leave, there's no way back in. That's just it. Because your reward for performance enhances performance. We're not even getting to the point of pay to win stuff. This game is a behavior to win. It's a legacy to win. That's acceptable in a lot of games, like old games. It's acceptable. Legacy is acceptable. Pay to win is obviously not acceptable. Ironically, I feel pay to win is far fairer than legacy. That's a hot take too. So let's think about it this way. What can trump legacy in this society, right? Like, say you have 30 years of experience. Is it harder to argue against someone who plays in a system where legacy is valued over performance, or a system where you pay to them for the performance differences. Well, first of all, paying more people have access to, far more than legacy. There's a reason why legacy is so powerful. When someone's with the game for 10 years, legacy, like, there are very few people who can compete with you. They can't just magically get 10 years of experience, or 10 years, or say 10 years. Time is far more valuable than monetary gains. Monetary gains can close the gap on time. So if you're curious, when people say, a lot of veteran players and legacy players would say, like, oh yeah, but I don't want this game to be pay to win, because like I don't want them to encroach on my legacy. Well, no one can encroach on your legacy. You played this game for 10 years. They would have to have started when you started to beat you in legacy. Legacy is the ultimate pay to win. You pay with your time. Time is the most it's arguably an intractable form of value. So what is harder than pay to win in live service? Neverwinter. Their design is based on legacy. You can't enter a game. Like, it's far harder to enter a pay to win. It's harder to enter a game like Neverwinter than it is to enter a game that's pay to win. It's like the ultimate form. Like, for example, if you want to get a job, right? Your boss is someone who works longer than you. Like, have worked in the job longer than you. Period. That's it. How can you catch up when your boss quits or retires? That's your only option. At least pay to win allows the person who is coming in to incentivize and transfer their value as a human being to offset legacy. Nepotism is far superior and uncontested than having merit through resources. That person who paid for that money, like paid for that service and stuff, they're successful elsewhere. It's equivocating merit. So if this person has a lot of money, they're getting it from somewhere. It's better than assuming a person who played 10 years automatically is better than the person that didn't. Like, or more valuable. Again, ideally there's another step down, which is meritocracy, right? The meritocracy is neither pay to win nor nepotistic. Unfortunately, since we're, linear time creatures, it's very difficult for us to separate from nepotism, right? And it's kind of hard to separate from monetary gains too. And then even below that is meritocracy. It's the easiest to separate merit. It's next easiest to separate monetary gain. And then is the even less than that is legacy. So when YouTube, like if you look at a YouTube comment section, if the default qualification that most people rely on is their legacy, because no longer is someone's success, which is often monetary, is sufficient to convince someone. And then even before that, it's hard to demonstrate someone's merit, right? You can't just say, oh, I did a great job here, so I disagree. That's really easily counter-argued. And then you could say, well, I made a lot of money and I'm very successful. That's more difficult to disagree with. And then you have, as an engineer for 30 years, I think this, then it's even harder to counter argue the person. And for me, none of that is impressive. I do not. It can be all of the above and more. The GOAT for me, the requirement for me, is beyond that. It's mutual respect. If you have mutual respect, that circumvents pretty much all of the other three. Like, your status is irrelevant if I respect you. Your merit is irrelevant. Like, I don't need those things. If we have mutual respect, we have mutual respect. You can't go beyond that. And mutual respect comes in many forms. Acknowledging that the other person is a human being, not how long they've worked a job, not how much money they have, and not how many good deeds they made. It's all of it. Like, all of it defines, and more defines, a human being. So if you can establish mutual respect from all the things they tell you immediately, that is an unbreakable bond. And the Neverwinter community and Cryptic do not have a mutual respect of each other. It's so difficult to accept that they have, the community and the developer in this game has a mutual respect for each other. It's crazy. You don't have to aim for that though. It's really not necessary. All this stuff is just icing and idealism. I'm talking about idealistic and naive concepts. In reality, it's somewhere like in between money and nepotism. Like, money and legacy is usually where it happens. I don't quite have an example off the top of my head that there's this mutual respect. I feel the closest thing I have is a game I play called Osu. Epi and the community, his product, the community that it spawned, is incredibly close to that. It could also be familial, right? But familial is not interpersonal between anyone. Familial is very specific. So you can go even deeper, but they're rarer and rarer cases. Like, familial can go even beyond mutual respect. It becomes unconditional. So the GOAT of everything at the very end is unconditional. And that's usually reserved for your significant other, your child, your family, maybe even someone who's gone through adversity with you. Like brothers and sisters and siblings, right? I don't know why I said brothers and sisters and siblings. I don't know if there's any other siblings. Anyways, that's the sentiment. This game is the third form. It's legacy. Legacy carries its development. Legacy carries the choices made and whatnot. And the higher you go up, the harder and harder it is to break into the circle. If you have unconditional bonds and that's all your cutoff is, you only have family members, siblings, and your best friends. That's it. No one else can enter your circle at that level. If you're in Legacy, anyone who hasn't been here for a very long time, basically all the casual players and the people that need to join this game, like you're trying to track those, they are already immediately excluded from the discussion. Pay to win, anyone who is new, who also is willing to spend, is included now, which is still greater than a legacy build. And then the very last one, remove all legacy and pay to win and make it a merit-based system. Then you have a live service game that's sustainable on growth. It does not have that. This game does not have that. It's somewhere in between, getting close to pay to win. It's a combination of pay to win philosophy, not like literal contemporary standards of pay to win. It's the philosophy of having resources, and legacy. So the longer you play, the more resources you have, the more likely you stay with the game. It does not cater to someone who just comes in and is like, if I pay you $50, can I be part of legacy? $50 doesn't cover legacy because these guys are making trials and dungeons that only cater on the feedback of legacy players. So obviously the feedback and stuff will excommunicate whoever even is willing to pay $50 to join the club in the first place. And they do offer that payment to get closer to the club. What does a meritocracy look like in a live service game? The next module, everyone's gear is reset. That's a meritocracy. Will that happen? Oh heck no. I think they might as well just make a new game, right? That's when it gets a little too deep. If that system, if a meritocracy is not already established in a game, it's usually more lucrative and pragmatic to start a new game. Just start a new game. Diablo is a great way to integrate both of these. You have legacy on the one hand, but then the seasonal events, right? The seasonal events is a meritocracy, as in the progress and stuff is reset technically every season. The most sustainable model that is the most popular are PvP games. They are closest to a meritocracy than anything. And they always struggle between the relationship between pay to win and meritocracy because they're next to each other. Neverwinter is on the other side. It's between legacy and pay to win. I don't think in any of its lifespan did Neverwinter ever form the basis of a meritocracy in video games. Some might casually argue when it had PvP, but that is grasping at straws because I was there. You know, I'm using my legacy now. PvP was not a meritocracy in this game originally, not even in its original form, because there was no normalization for gear, there was no normalization for seasons, the reputation and profiles were persistent, there's no reset, so it was never an, you know, when you were there first you already had an advantage. It's kind of like the old school World of Warcraft stuff, like Blood Gulch and stuff. When I was playing in vanilla, you brought your legacy into the PvP component originally, but Blizzard did stick with their guns and they eventually kind of like turned that into a separate thing. And then, what Cryptic did was just abandon it. So that's a fair way of just, you know, ripping the band-aid off, right? All this stuff fits so neatly. It's worth to disclaim, right? This stuff fits neatly because I'm painting a narrative. I mean, like, I've talked about this a lot, and I've seen this a lot, and it wasn't in video games. It was in education. This was most vivid when I was in high school, when I was first exposed to a ranking system. Right, my high school had a ranking system, so it's not a big stretch. In fact, the school ranking system has far more moving parts and complexity than a video game's ranking system. And then what is the next ranking system? Your job. When you go into careers and have peer review and all those things, they have ranking systems. They're just very, very complicated to understand, and a large majority of people prefer to just do their best and hope the ranking system is in their favor. Video game ranking systems like gear score and completion stuff and whatnot. That's an incredibly rudimentary way of. It's a great opportunity to practice how you respond and adapt to rating systems, though. And I think there's room for making competitive games be a incredible learning experience for a more dynamic system, like life, like adapting to life. It'll be an uphill battle for sure. It's also the fairness, right? If you're looking at fairness, draw an association with fairness. A meritocracy is the most fair, right? Relatively speaking. Pay to win is even less fair. Legacy is even less fair. And then unconditional is just completely partial. Like just 100% partial. Like the person you have an unconditional relationship with, it's literally 100% or 99.99% giving extenuating circumstances. So when you're talking about the fairness of a game system, and you have Neverwinter players saying how pay to win is less fair than what they have now, I find it very difficult to even wrap the logic around how that, like, explain it logically how that is true. Legitimately, pay to win is far fairer than the system that Neverwinter has right now. You can't beat Legacy with pay to win. So inherently, if they introduce pay to win, more players will play the game. That's the irony here. More players will play the game, and the people who have Legacy will continue to be on top. The game will make more money, have more people, and the people at the top will continue to profit. That is the reality, not some romantic gesture about give us meritocracy or give us death when the game can't even support a pay-to-win model. Those are stepping stones. Those are big stepping stones. You're leaping over pay-to-win to get to meritocracy, or the people who are very vocal, right? There are some vocal people are saying like, oh yeah, why don't we just get rid of these things and get rid of these things? It should be about skill and like not loyalty. It should not be about how long you played this game. It should be instantly that everyone be on level playing field. Yeah. How do you get closer to that? Make the game pay to win. Eventually, the gap will close. Will I be the person paying to win? Well, no, because I'm part of the legacy group, right? So I'm obviously not paying for it. It doesn't make me any more skilled. Alternatively, Cryptic can just reset everyone's gear. That I don't even want to entertain how big of a gap that is. It's crazy. I say it with a smile, I guess, but it's a real big deal when you speak to certain people who legitimately attach their well-being and the relationships they have with other people to a video game, and then it's super serious. Like it can be everything to them. So I don't want to make it look like I'm an uncaring person. I just can't empathize with that. my relationship with other people go beyond a video game. Some people might say that, and yet they react so violently when their game is threatened. Like, quote unquote, their game is threatened. This isn't my game. It's Cryptic's game. It's a lot of people's game. It's an accumulation of whoever is still playing this game. If it becomes your game, then I like to hope that when this game disappears, you have somewhere else to give your life some significance. Filling in the void, guys. Filling in the void. Neverwinter makes me think of these things because it's a legacy game. It makes me think of all the time and experiences that I had over the years. A great place to reflect. It's also the end of the year. The New Year's is around the corner. We're almost there. Almost there. These are the tough ones. The big streams. I might not even qualify this as a digression. I don't think this is a digression. This is part of the Neverwinter experience for me. But we won't like emphasize that. This is the Neverwinter. This is my Neverwinter experience. If there are people out there, for whatever reason, for whatever weird reason, curious what I think about when I play Neverwinter, like, you know, if they don't see me stream Neverwinter, say, like, every other time when there isn't a new module and stuff, what do I think about when I am bootstrapping for, like, the 100th time through Neverwinter, right? The 8th week. I mean, it's not like I'm engaging myself in the actual task of doing this, right? Like, I'm barely looking at the screen doing this. I'm looking at something else. I spend my time thinking about all the things I can talk about. And actually, most of the stuff I talk about in other video games, when I'm playing other video games, came from me playing live service games. So whenever I'm playing like PSO2, NGS, and Neverwinter, since it's not really intellectually engaging mechanically, right? Like, I'm not actually engaging in a lot of that. It gives me time to brainstorm and practice. So this spiel that I just gave is actually kind of new in a little sense. It's old and new. A lot of it after the whole SciShow thing is technically old. The SciShow thing was new. So I'm like rehearsing. And live service games are a way that I ruminate about it. It's very meditative, right? I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing on screen, by the way, so it's very, very low input. Like, if I'm gonna queue up for a random dungeon or like do Defense of the Moon Dancer again and again and hope that like the heckin' traditional looting system will give me something, then I'm actually thinking about like psychology and life and all that stuff. That's usually what happens. It alleviates my boredom. So most of my it's a funny way to look at it. I haven't really voiced this before. Most of my ideas and whatnot comes from when I'm not really intellectually engaged in doing something. So this is more I think I've said this before. Neverwinter, a live service game, is more of a fidget spinner. It's more of a fidget spinner where it keeps me focused, where it keeps my thoughts focused on something while accomplishing something, right? I'm technically accomplishing my tasks, the weekly hauls and stuff. It's kind of like running. Like when I'm running, I'm not focused on the act of running. I'm actually using running as a meditative state to brainstorm about things. When I was running today, I was coming up with this spiel right here. And then now I'm playing Neverwinter and I'm practicing this spiel literally to myself, generally speaking. And then if that leads to an interaction with a stranger, then I get to practice something else, right? So it's always maximizing, where we're constantly doing something. The time when I'm not doing anything and I'm not learning anything is when I'm sleeping. Or dead, but usually sleeping. Sometimes I have lucid dreams, and those lucid dreams can become inspiration, but most of the time I don't have too many lucid dreams lately. I sleep pretty well these days, actually. My sleep hygiene has improved quite dramatically. I'm trying to think of what I can say about astral dust. I think astral dust and squid medallions need to heckin' get a drop rate increase. It's not just the aberrations. Squid medallions and astral dust kind of suck too. Yeah, like, look at this. Not a single astral dust. I more or less completed my thoughts for today. Gonna rest the old voice. Being a little sandy, a little coarse. It takes them a while to engage. the Kuatoa. Yep. This is my Neverwinter experience after week 4. There's pretty much nothing else to talk about, really. It's about the average experience. This is a pretty average experience in general. Dude. It took him like 8 billion years to engage. What the heck? By 8 billion years, I mean like 1 minute. Astro dust. I tell you. Astro dust. You have to wait. Okay, that was a great haul right there, though. Rescue prisoners. Is this Valoria? No, it's not. Oh. Okay. The hamster. I didn't get a hamster this time. Maybe I'll buy a hamster. Sure. I love the hamster running animation. That guy's on a giant hamster. Hey, yeah. It's so cute. Sorry. Sorry. I broke my doom and gloom persona. I already opened lockboxes. We didn't get it this time. It's all good. You just buy it then. Oh no. I was actually banking on completing this before 9 p.m. I guess it's fine. 9 p.m. Local time. Is that guy name mob? Heck. Are you stuck? I'm just gonna grab this, please. Alright. See ya. Yep. Definitely just use my mount power. Somehow stayed in combat. I think this is the last one. So we're almost done. Okay. That wasn't so bad, was it? Oh wait. Never mind. I've got to rescue the mercs. Wait. Are we at 1? Oh no, we're at 2. Gee. Okay. Okay. There's still one more set. No. Just to integrate what I said, like the story that I was trying to convey earlier. Why does it matter to me, for example, why does it matter to me that I have to record myself completing the weekly haul with all 3 tunes? It's because I wanted to keep something for myself, right? If I don't do it and record it, right? I won't be able to remember it the way it is. And then the thoughts I had. So I especially prepared something to talk about today, largely to myself, and maybe to the occasional person who's inspired to spin their own take on this idea of live service models. Because complete the weekly haul. That's not like the literal completion of the weekly haul. It's very bottom of the barrel. Like it doesn't really offer that much value. What I make of it is high in value. I've got an opportunity to practice a spiel, quote unquote spiel, that I will most definitely practice later on. So this is like I guess what I could say about week 8 of Spelljammer is that if anyone ever watches me play Neverwinter, they'll have a tease of what's going on in my mind, because this spiel that I'm working on is going to be important in February when I start learning languages for the year 2024. Actually, overall, I think I need to, yeah, we need to do this last round. So let's do this last round. I always have a plan. Always thinking how to maximize things while it doesn't seem like I'm maximizing things. Why play Neverwinter when you can play Neverwinter, use it as a source of inspiration, think about other things, practice that during Neverwinter while also playing, right? Come on, why settle with just playing Neverwinter? Why settle with just doing anything specific? If you're feeling good, life is your oyster, and you have the privilege, like myself, have the privilege to tackle many things. Might as well seize the opportunity. I mean, one day I like to hope that I could actually share some of this stuff in retrospect to other people. You know, things I've learned over the years, maybe things I've abandoned in another 5 years or so down the road. Who knows? It will be excellent regardless. I might have forgotten it, and one day it might be the thing to my own salvation. Maybe my 50-year-old self need to understand what my 30-year-old self was like, because I was who knows, in 50 years, and when I become 50, I might become some miserable person who learned so much that they've lost motivation in capturing that same, you know, the feeling or something, an inspiration. And I look back on this and be able to extract what I need from it at a later time. I like to think that can be possible. Largely why I encourage people to journal write or keep a food diary. It's a way to reflect, not to capture the same emotions. It's to use it, breathe more value to something you might have forgotten. I can't tell you, you know, I literally can't tell you how you'll feel when one day an experience you have forgotten but written down inspires and rekindles your interest in your own life. You know, if there isn't anyone else who can possibly understand you, How poetic would it be that the person that could help you was you from 30 years ago? You never know. I mean, obviously, ideally, I wouldn't ever want someone to have to rely on that. The idea is to have people around you who have shared enough with you, with your own personal life and story and stuff, that they themselves are a version of you, like your journal, right? But if you don't have that luxury and you need to be alone and you're just a really big loner, it's time. Grab that journal. Your younger self could ironically be more wiser than your older self in some ways. So don't let that go. Whenever I talked about today about the whole memory is dynamic and stuff, and preservation being painted as potentially something undesirable, it's not. It's both. The idea is preservation is excluding thinking that your brain is dynamic. You can do both. Use technology. And I don't mean like recording and stuff. You can use a paper and pencil. A paper and pencil is just as sufficient. Create art. Start a garden. Plant a tree. Dare I say, find someone you love and start a family. Right? Obviously, all these things are pretty extreme. But you can start with the paper and pencil. The stuff I'm describing now, I'm quite literally doing and participating with them. Like 3 or 4 people. They're quite young too. Usually it's older, like in my generation I would say, if someone is still struggling with what I'm discussing now, and they're in the 30s like in my age, I would be a little bit concerned. Like it would be very concerning if someone is still struggling with the things I'm encountering from strangers. Maybe acquaintances now. And then some friends, right? It absolutely breaks my heart when someone tells me that their life is boring and not worth sharing. Although I don't really voice it in that way. I just ask them questions. And hopefully that maybe I can give them the impression that at least it's interesting to me. Anyone can do that. I really earnestly believe anyone can quite significantly change a stranger's direction in life by just giving them the impression that someone cares. And you don't have to pretend, obviously. Asking questions may make you interested. You never know. As the person asking the questions, you can treat it as a challenge for yourself. How dynamic are you at adjusting to different people's stories? How worldly are you? Pick up the challenge. If you truly think you're worldly and open-minded, challenge yourself. Ask them questions and add to their story. If you can't, you practiced. You practiced and it will lead to more things. You can call it naive too, right? Like I am pretty naive. I'm sappy. Like I mentioned a couple of times. I want to find meaning where there isn't, because the people I talk to that I'm trying to find meaning in feels like their life is meaningless. or it's not worth sharing. So yeah, you bet, Mr. Stranger Online, that I am very, very good or constantly trying to find meaning when there isn't meaning. Because if I don't see meaning and this person is telling me their life is meaningless, who's gonna find it? You can't inspire someone to find meaning in their life by saying how meaningful your life is. That is incredibly obtuse and insensitive. If you have meaning in your life, you don't even need to say it. You can just demonstrate it. When you talk to a stranger and they're like, yeah, it's uneventful, you know, but it's Christmas. Come on, try me. I quite literally said those words just recently during Christmas, yesterday, when someone, went about and said, it's just normal stuff. It's not that interesting. Try me. Really, go ahead, try me. Try to make it sound as boring as possible. Do it. At least you're trying, right? Sometimes even trying to be boring can be a little bit more engaging than actually believing it's boring to a stranger. There's always a way around. Gotta make people care about their lives. Like my heart legitimately feel when I talk about these things. I could legitimately bring myself to tears thinking that some people go around, 18 years old, like their adulthood is about to start, and suddenly they just decide that nothing in their life matters. That's incredibly unfortunate. And not even in a serious way. Like, what I mean is, they're coping really effectively. They're incredibly great at coping with it. And that's even scarier. When someone can cope and just say that, like, this isn't worth sharing. Like, I decided to eat something new, but it's not worth sharing, this is just the normal stuff. If you can trivialize something like that and be okay with it, that's a really early sign. Like, that's an early sign to the point where you can't, as an adult, right? If you're a guardian, you can't even know if they're upset or not. They don't even know if they're upset or not. Like, eventually they'll be like, I have no idea why I'm unmotivated. I don't either. Because you normalized it so much that I can't even tell if you're upset anymore. So that's kind of the scare stuff. That's really scary. So no more of that. I really hope there are some content creators that I'm aware of. Absolutely. Like, man, I don't remember his name. Oh yeah, I do remember his name. Like, shout outs to, I'm gonna do one shout out that I've loved recently, and that's and he's really popular, so I'm sure some of you youngins are at least all those like aspiring computer science people or people who are into video games. Pirate Software, right? Thor, that guy. I'm glad someone like I'm really happy that someone like him exists, right? Because if I'm not gonna say something, like if no one's gonna hear what I have to say because it's too long and I don't give hot takes and whatnot, at least someone like that guy can say something in like 50 seconds or less and sway a bunch of kids to like, dude, go out, make mistakes. Like, make mistakes when you can. Make mistakes safely. Learn initiatively to intentionally know the risk and rewards, and take the low risk mistakes. Try things. Preserving things is great and all, but when you're really happy and you're like on cloud 9, it's a beautiful time to try and see what works out. Things that don't work out, they might feel like mistakes, but they are also practice. So if you intentionally make a mistake or intentionally set yourself up to be prone to make mistakes, they're no longer mistakes. It's called practice, right? It's the euphemism kids are familiar with. When you go out to practice, you are actively making mistakes. It just doesn't seem like a mistake because you're not making a decision making. You're not engaged in a really critical, permanent decision making yet. So go out and practice. That's the idea, right? Practice making your life sound less boring. When a stranger asks you how your life is, practice expressing how boring it is. I mean, at minimum, you could explain why it's boring, right? Some people might be thinking, that's outrageous. They probably just complain and stuff. It's like, no, kids don't even do that anymore. Like, there was a time when kids complain about how boring it is. Like, they actually say how angrily boring it is, or like what is making them bored. Nowadays, you just have someone who says it's boring, you get it. It's like, no, I don't get it. Can you express it to me? And it just says like, well, it's boring. Like, I don't. It's very fun. It can be very fun and very self-aware and healthy to practice even explaining why you hate something or why you dislike something. Those are constructive things, right? If you know why you hate something, you can become constructive in it. It will probably start off as some emotional outburst and some projection of just crude prejudice, right? However, over time, that will refine in itself, and that act will be a tool they can use to carry on into adulthood. Like, they will be able to be realistic with themselves. They will be able to suck it up and become stronger people and stuff like that. If you don't practice that at all, then you just don't have the tools at all. I don't think this is like some natural born instinct or something that special people have and other special people don't have. There's one thing that makes life unfair: when the opportunities are not there. So when you don't have the opportunity to practicing mistakes, then you don't ever get that opportunity. When you see an opportunity to do that, it's always worth a little bit of, ambivalence and fear to get your feet wet. Go out and take a risk at eating something that is disgusting or possibly very questionable when you are the most happiest. I understand how ironic that is. A lot of times one would say, oh yeah, I'm having a great day. I don't want to ruin the great day. Well, let's think about it in the span of your life, right? Do you want to make a bad day worse? Or a good day possibly better or worse? So the fear of ruining your good day is still going to pan out more than a bad day getting ruined by something you didn't even do yet, like that you didn't practice. So when you're having a really good day, pick a challenge. Do a challenge because you're up for it. You are in your best condition to take a challenge. That is something I think it's timeless. It's a logic that is great Because when you practice something, when you go and like practice football or play a video game, oftentimes you're thinking about you in your best mindset. Well, you can apply that to life. And there's a lot of life skills where if you're really exhausted and can't talk to people, don't talk to people. When you're really excited and happy now, it's a great time to try to talk to someone. It will most definitely dampen your mood. However, in the long run, you will be ready when you need to talk to someone, right? So, what is my 2 cents here? When me, as a stranger, like as a streamer who has very little audience, and you, potential stranger, my friend, my future friend, or perhaps, when you ask me a question and I'm already a streamer that doesn't have an audience, right? Like doesn't have a lot of audience. This is one of those ideal moments that if I ask you a question, you could say anything. You could practice anything. You wouldn't know what would happen. You could make me angry. You could make me uncomfortable. You could make me excited. But at least I can give you the opportunity to do something that isn't maybe your boss. Like imagine now that since you didn't take this opportunity to interact with a relatively available stranger that is really literally obligated to interact because they're publicly streaming something, you go into an interview and you wonder why you couldn't answer or be so nervous about answering questions about your life and your experiences in an interview to your potential boss, like your future boss. Well, you had trouble interacting with me, a random stranger who's literally obligated to probably entertain you in some way. That's where you start. At least start there, right? If you have a sibling, you probably start there too. So my take on like for 2024, maybe like a message for 2024, all the hopeful little youngins out there, or maybe even adults that are really stuck in their own ways, like want to stay the same all the time. I would challenge them, if they are really comfortable with their own skin, step out of it. I bet you're not as comfortable as you think. I don't think someone who's dynamic, successful, and adaptive ever feels comfortable. Because they don't. I don't ever keep myself in a comfortable state long enough to feel comfortable. There is a risk of imposter syndrome, for sure. I absolutely agree. Some people actually call me out on it quite a lot sometimes. Like, no, like that's selling yourself short. And I'm like, that's understandable. However, I like to keep myself in an uncomfortable state. People who are the most confident, competent, and successful are those who constantly keep themselves just in that edge of uncomfortability, because it makes them the most challenged all the time. They are willing to take a challenge when they are most comfortable. So if you're sitting pretty on top of a throne, thinking that you're the best at something, you're probably not as comfortable as you think you are. And you're probably not as competent as you think you are. Because you spend most of the time in a small pond, in a small world, adapting and refining a single skill. That's fair. If that skill is like making money, then the world's your oyster, I suppose. It doesn't make you more competent. It just makes you way more specialized in that one skill. So, even those people, when they make it to the top, they're gonna want to expand and leave their comfort zone. You know, even Elon Musk moves on to other ventures once he finds it's comfortable to move on, right? So, I mean, granted, you see that he takes risks and makes mistakes too, or potential controversial mistakes, I suppose. Controversial moves. not many successful human beings, consistently happy human beings, ever stay static, even till the end of their days. If you found closure and you're like in your 60s and 70s and you'd be like, yeah, you know, I've experienced all life has to offer. Fair enough. Absolutely. If you're asking me, I'm gonna leave this message to my 80-year-old self. Maybe in 80 years I'll still be able to see this like video. I am gonna bet my 80-year-old self that when I'm 80, I will still have this same perspective. That I won't stop being uncomfortable. The moment I get too comfortable, I get bored. And when I get bored, I stop being of value to myself and to other people. And when you become bored with yourself, you can't possibly project value to any other person. And it is up to luck and the universe to put you in touch with someone who can breathe value back into your life. It could be you. It could literally be you from 40 years ago. You write in that journal, say like, you're the best thing. In 10 years, I hope to be this thing. You write that in your journal and come back to it in 10 years. Right? That, it could be you. But just as a word for 2024, hopefully, maybe we'll still be playing Neverwinter, right? Yeah. Seize the opportunity. You're sick? You're gonna head out? Came out of nowhere. It's okay. Scoop. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Like, get something for that. Alright, folks. That's a wrap for week 8 of Neverwinter. Spelljammer module. Nothing has changed. No patches. No nothing. So, and the experience is more or less the same. So it's a 5 out of 5. I mean, 5 out of 5. 5 out of 10. It's just an average experience. I hope embellishing it with a story and an anecdote that I'm practicing on, you'll probably hear a more refined version of it in the future. This is the first, like, practice of it. Hopefully someone found it a little bit fun to listen to, or the ramblings of a 10-year-old plus Neverwinter player, I suppose. I mean, like, I'm not 10 years old, but I mean, I have a 10-year tenure in Neverwinter. Hopefully that is a little bit more enjoyable than watching someone bootstrap through Neverwinter, right? Alright, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Definitely, you're always welcome to share, comment, discuss your life lesson. Or things. Maybe something that live service taught you about yourself. Or perhaps something I talked about when it comes to the youth and adults' minds, right? As always, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, keep on learning. Actively practice taking risks, but in a safe manner, right? That sounded kind of oxymoronic, but anyways. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, keep on working at it. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye now.